Hey everyone, today is Thursday, March 7th. Thank you for joining us this morning. As you can see, I've brought along a couple of special guests. This is my wife, Catherine, and my son, Zion. Today's proverb does include some mature themes, just so you know, but we're going to go through it together today. Super excited about it. All right, so Proverbs 7. Follow my advice, my son, always treasure my commands. Obey my commands and live. Guard my instruction as you guard your own eyes. Tie them on your fingers as a reminder. Write them deep within your heart. Love wisdom like a sister. Make insight a beloved member of your family. Let them protect you from an affair with an immoral woman, from listening to the flattery of a promiscuous woman. While I was at the window of my house, looking through the curtain, I saw some naive young men, and one in particular who lacked common sense. He was crossing the street near the house of an immoral woman, strolling down the path by her house. It was at twilight in the evening as darkness fell. The woman approached him, seductively dressed and sly of heart. She was the brash, rebellious type, never content to stay at home.
She is often in the streets and markets, soliciting at every corner. She threw her arms around him and kissed him, and with a brazen look she said, "I've just made my peace offerings and fulfilled my vows. You are the one I was looking for. I came out to find you, and here you are. My bed is spread with beautiful blankets, with colored sheets of Egyptian linen. I've perfumed my bed with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon. Come, let's drink our fill of love until morning. Let's enjoy each other's caresses, for my husband is not home. He's away on a long trip. He has taken a wallet full of money with him and won't return until later this month." So she seduced him with her pretty speech and enticed him with her flattery. He followed her at once like an ox going to the slaughter. He was like a stag caught in a trap, awaiting the arrow that would pierce its heart. He was like a bird flying into a snare, little knowing it would cost him his life. So listen to me, my sons, and pay attention to my words. Don't let your hearts stray away toward her. Don't wander down her wayward path. For she has been the ruin of many. Many men have been her victims. Her house is the road to the grave. Her bedroom is the den of death. Now, obviously, this type of scene might not happen to you as you're just walking down the street, and hopefully you're staying home right now anyway, but rather this type of thing could be something that occurs on your phones, your tablets, your computer while you're at home. The scene has changed, but the story and the ending will always remain the same.
Absolutely. So picking up in verse 1, I think it's important, the word that I circled in chapter 7, verse 1 is treasure. When we view God's commands and His words like a true treasure and we value them, then this type of thing isn't going to happen for us. What Solomon's doing is instructing his son to treasure those commands. And in verse 2, the phrase at the end there, guard your own eyes. My mom used to say that constantly to me as I was growing up. She'd say, guard your eyes, guard your eyes, guard your eyes, until it became almost like this automatic thing that I just went right over my head. But it's really, really, really good advice. When you guard your eyes and what's coming into you through your eyes, this is so much easier, and the fight that you have to fight is so much better. Down in verse 8, it says, he was crossing the street near the house of an immoral woman, strolling down the path by her house. The interesting there that I notice is a proximity and a nearness that he has to a dangerous situation. And I want to encourage you guys, students, think deeply about the places that you go and the people that you're with. One interesting thing that I want to point out is that people don't derail their life with one big bad decision. It's like they're doing fine, and then one day they decide, okay, I'm going to destroy my life. It's actually made with a series of small decisions that aren't so bad. It's not so bad. And over time, that's what sets the trajectory for your life. So here he's talking about the proximity, how close this young man was to her house, and that was ultimately his downfall. Also in verse 9, it says, it was at twilight in the evening as deep darkness fell. My parents always used to say, nothing good happens after 10 o'clock, or maybe your parents say, nothing good happens after midnight. But that's the idea here. The time of day also is a big factor in this.
Yeah. And it's really easy to believe that, oh, we're going to be able to resist the temptation. We're okay. We can allow ourselves an inch, but allowing yourselves an inch might go a mile. And we don't have as much self-control as we think we do. So we really need to be asking the Holy Spirit to purify us and to be in control of our lives, because on our own humanness, we just can't have that much control.
Then we skip down to verse 15, and this woman says, "You're the one I was looking for. I came out to find you, and here you are." Honestly, that's just a straight up lie, and we know that. Sin doesn't discriminate. It will take whoever comes in contact with it. Sin does not discriminate. So I want to encourage you, as we think about the 21st century and the place we live now you have more access than ever. You students have more access than ever to this kind of situation, this kind of person at younger and younger ages. I want to encourage you guys to be careful, to set boundaries. Find a Christian leader, someone you can trust to talk through these things, because if you try to just go through it on your own, that's not going to work. One other encouragement I have is that women, students, don't be that girl. And also watch out for the guy who sweeps you off your feet but pressures you to do things that you shouldn't do, that you know you shouldn't do. You have to watch out for those people because they're sneaky and you might fall prey if you're not watching out for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, another thing to note too is that temptation is often covered in superficial attraction and temporary satisfaction.
You can see that in verse 17 and 18. Yeah.
Where she talks about the perfuming of the bed, the myrrh, the aloes, the cinnamon. She's trying to draw him in with these very superficial things, but they're never going to provide any type of satisfaction.
Yeah, and she says in verse 19, "For my husband is not home, he's away on a long trip." Nowadays, what that looks like is, I don't have a boyfriend. What's interesting about that culture is at that time, those women got married a lot earlier. We know that Mary was betrothed to Joseph when she was probably around like 13 years old. So a lot of those women were very young when they got married. But nowadays, so basically the text focuses a lot on adultery. But nowadays, we can think of that more as promiscuity or basically sexual relations outside of the context of marriage. In verse 21, as she mentioned, it says, "She seduced him with her pretty speech and enticed him with her flattery." Sin seems so great and it seems so easy at the time, and we have to watch out for those things that just seem so good at the time. In verse 22, it says he followed her at once like an ox going to the slaughter. That is such an ugly scene to think about a human being led like an ox just to its own death, never knowing that, tromping along, going straight to its death. Verse 23, awaiting the arrow that would pierce its heart. That's just a tragic picture, and that's what's going on in this passage. Finally, to kind of close things off, we see in verse 25, the idea kind of flips. Like I connected in the beginning of the chapter to just the idea of being close to something. It says, don't let your heart stray away toward her. Don't wander down her wayward path. And students, when our lives lack a direction, when we don't have a clear sight, a clear goal in mind, we start to wander. And we start to lean toward things of this world because we don't have a singular focus. So I want to warn us against that as you go about your life, you need to have a singular focus. You need to know what your goal is and be striving towards that goal. Otherwise, you're going to be without direction and you're going to find yourself in situations that are really difficult. Verse 26 says, "For she has been the ruin of many, for many men have been her victims." Don't kid yourself. You're not the first and you won't be the last. So anyway, I hope you guys have taken something from this passage in Proverbs on this Thursday. I'm really excited that we get to continue to be with you. We have a lot of exciting things coming up in the next week, including some guests who are going to be coming on with me and instead of me. So I'm really excited. Stay tuned tomorrow for more of our Crosspoint Proverbs Project.